Okay, welcome once again. Welcome to linuxin.com. In today's video, we are going to talk about network security in Linux. Okay, so network security is a sort of a topic which, we could fill hours and hours of discussion with this topic, but we are not going to jump into that deep. But what we are going to do, that we are going to divide this topic into two fundamental videos. So number one video that which we are shooting today, this video is basically related to the network security. What is network security? How it could help us, and what are the types of network security. In this video, we're going to just discuss that. So in the next video, which would be part 2, that we would perhaps upload this month, in that video, we're going to see that what does this network security, what role it plays in Linux. Okay, so that these are this is, you can say, this is the outline of our related to network security. Okay, so without a further ado, let's start. So first question is, what is network security? So the answer to that question is that network security is any activity designed to protect the usability and integrity of your network and data. So for example, if you're like transferring your messages or emails or important data from one computer to another computer using a simple network, so network security is basically that activity which would basically protect your data and your information. So it could do it using encryption, SSH and SSL, etc. So it includes both hardware and software technologies. Okay, so it is not alone software. Some people have misconception that network security is somehow only software related. It's really not that. It is really not the case. Okay. So effective network security manages access to the network. Yes, that is true. It targets a variety of threats and stops them from entering or spreading on your network. For example, virus, or for example, spoofing, different sort of attacks that some hacker could do. Network security basically tries to stop it. So you can imagine, basically, I usually quote this example. You can imagine that there is some sort of like, you have a villa. Your job is to secure the place. So you need to make sure that no intruder could enter the place. So that is the same case. Your network is kind of, a villa, your villa, and your duty, your job is to protect it. So network security is basically ensures that your data is safe. When you are transferring, it is safe. So it is kind of a security sort of thing. Okay, so we'll discuss it in detail. So now you could say that how does network security work? Okay, so we'll discuss its types as well. So in that case, you would understand well. All right, so now back to it. So how does network security work? So network security, basically it combines multiple layers of defenses and it combines them at the edge and in the network. All right. So each network security layer, it implements policies and controls. Okay. So there are some basic policies and controls that it implements, and because of them, your network becomes secure and the data could travel easily without any, you can say, tension or something, because your data is going to reach its destination really safe. So no intruder would be able to steal your information. All right. So authorized users, by the way, you can ask why network security is important. You can imagine that what would happen if you would if we would not have a network security in the world. So what would happen? You and I, we cannot really add our credit card information on any website. Anybody could steal our money, which is like the first thing that comes to our mind. So I'm giving that example so that you could understand the importance of network security. We could give other examples as well. For example, your private messages and your other information, it could be stolen. But money is the most important factor to few people, so people understand really well. So that's why I'm giving you that example. So network security is really, really important. All right. So back to this point. So authorized users, they gain access to the network resources, but malicious actors, which are which are trying to steal from you, they are basically blocked from carrying out exploits and threats. Okay. So the authorized users, they would be able to use the network, but if there is some intruder, they won't be able to get in. All right. So next question, how do we benefit from network security? So the idea is that digitization has transformed our world, and it has pretty much transformed that how we live, how we work, how we play, and obviously we have changed a lot. Okay. So every organization that wants to deliver the services that customers and employee demand must protect its network. Okay. So imagine that I am a service provider and I need your private information in order to provide my service. So I wouldn't be able to do that without network security. Okay, so your information has got to be secured, and whatever product or whatever services I'm offering and sending that to you, that must be secured as well, so that nobody could steal your information and could actually blackmail you, or do, maybe they could do even worse, right? Who knows? So network security is that important. So NS, or network security, it also helps us to protect proprietary information from attack. Okay, so imagine that you were trying for 2 months, you were thinking about your brand name, and now it has come to your mind, and now you are going to your relevant website and you're about to register your brand name, but before that you have shared that brand name in the email with a close friend or someone. So if a hacker actually has access to that information, they could actually register that before you or something like that, or it could literally hurt you. So network security is really important and it really benefits us. So ultimately, it protects our reputation. All right. So moving on to the next point. So now we will discuss the types of network security. So the first type is basically access control. So the idea is that not every user should have access to your network. Okay. So to keep our potential attackers out, what you have got to do, that you have to recognize each user and each device. So you could say that user represent obviously the software, and the device represents the hardware. Okay, so if you're obviously it is pretty much a recognizable thing that if you're going to recognize the user, it is obviously, it has something to do with the software, and it would have, user would have some unique ID, and device, obviously it has something to do with the hardware. And if you remember, when we were discussing network security, we have seen that that network security is related to both the hardware and the software. All right. So after that, you can enforce your security policies. Okay, once you have recognized the user and the device, now you can enforce your security policies. So you can block non-compliant endpoint devices or give them only limited access. Okay. So you can limit the access of the users that are unwanted on your network. Okay, so this process is network access control. All right. So moving on to the next next type of network security, which is virus or antivirus. Excuse me. So malware, short for malicious software, you can say. It includes viruses, worms, trojans, ransomware, and spyware, including key logging as well. Okay, so sometimes malware will infect a network but lie dormant for days or even weeks. The best anti-malware programs not only scan for malware upon entry, but also continuously track files afterward to find anomalies, remove malware, and fix damage. Okay. So moving on to the next type, which is application security. So any software you use, it is used to run your business, needs to be protected. Okay. So whether your IT staff builds it or whether you buy it, it has to be protected. It has to be protected. Okay. So unfortunately, any application may contain holes or vulnerabilities that attackers can use to infiltrate your network. So no matter, if a simple developer has developed your software, they don't really know how to protect it from the attackers. Only network security experts do. Okay. So application security encompasses the hardware, software, and processes you use to close those holes. Okay, so application security is for that purpose. Moving on to the next point, next type is behavioral analytics. So in order to detect abnormal network behavior, you must know what normal behavior looks like. Okay, so if you don't really know, how would you decide that if it is a normal or abnormal behavior? Anyway, moving on to the next point. But before that, I want to tell you something else as well. So behavioral analytics tools automatically discern activities that deviate from the norm. So your security team can then better identify indicators of compromise that pose a potential problem and quickly remediate threats. Okay. So moving on to the next point, data loss prevention. So the idea is that organizations must make sure that their staff does not send sensitive information outside the network. So data loss prevention or DLP technologies can stop people from uploading, forwarding, or even printing critical information in an unsafe manner. All right. So that was the data loss prevention type. So moving on to the next point, which is email security. So email gateways are the #1 threat vector for a security breach. So if you obviously you would have an email address. So now the technology is far advanced, but previously you would get a lot of spam messages in your email. So now they have created a dictionary. So all those spam emails, they do not even reach your inbox. So your email provider actually cancels those emails without reaching your inbox. Okay. So attackers, they basically use personal information and social engineering tactics to build sophisticated phishing campaigns to deceive recipients and send them to sites serving up malware. So social engineering techniques, they are like, so for example, let's say the email server is going to block the message with the subject, get rich. So let's say this is the message. So I'm trying to spam you. So your email provider is going to recognize it, and that email is never going to reach your inbox even. Okay. So for example, I do some social engineering and I write their $1,000 to $10,000 formula. Okay. Something like that. So I get smart and I try to do some social engineering and I put some name, recognizable name in the subject. And when they reach your inbox, you open that and you click on the link and then you go to that site, which is offering malware. So that is the case. That is the thing that happens. So an email security application basically blocks incoming attacks and controls outbound messages to prevent the loss of sensitive data. So usually you don't need to install any email security application. Nowadays the email providers, they are way advanced and they take care of that. Okay. So, but you need to take care of that too, because some of the emails through social engineering could reach your inbox. All right. So moving on to the next type, firewalls. So firewalls put up a barrier between your trusted internal network and untrusted outside networks, such as the internet. Okay. So sometimes it happens that your internet is not working. So in that case, there is a problem with your firewall. Okay. So they use a set of defined rules to allow or block traffic. When I say they, I mean firewalls. All right. So a firewall can be hardware, software, or both. All right. So I hope you've got the point. Moving on to the next point, which is intrusion prevention system. So an intrusion prevention system scans network traffic to actively block attacks. Okay. So it is basically going to scan the network traffic, after after a few minutes, or whatever the time span there is whatever the standard time span there is. I don't know that, but there must be a standard time span, okay, according to which it basically detects or scans the system. So what happens is that once it scans the network, it not only blocks the malicious activity, but it also tracks the progression of suspect files and malware across the network to prevent the spread of outbreaks and reinfection. Okay, so the hacker, once it has detected it, it cannot get away with that. Okay, so it is going to make sure that it basically take care of that. All right. So moving on to the next type, which is mobile device security. So the cyber criminals are increasing and they are targeting mobile devices and apps. So I cannot tell you that how many texts I receive daily for these kind of things. So if you're receiving, ignore them. Within the next 3 years, 90% of IT organizations, they may support corporate applications on personal mobile devices. Okay, so this is a research, and it's they think that's gonna happen. So of course you need to control which devices can access your network. So you will also need to configure their connections to keep network traffic private. That is an obvious thing. So let's talk about network segmentation. So software-defined segmentation puts network traffic into different classifications and makes enforcing security policies easier. So ideally, you can say that the classifications are based on endpoint identity and not mere IP addresses. Okay, so you can assign access rights based on role, location, and more so that the right level of access is given to the right people and suspicious devices are contained and remediated. All right. So you need to make sure that the right people have the access. All right. Simple as that. So next is VPN. All right. Or virtual private network, you can say. A virtual private network, it basically encrypts the connection from an endpoint to a network, often over the internet. So typically what happens is that a remote access VPN uses IPsec or secure sockets layer to authenticate the communication between device and network. Okay, so the next point is wireless security. Basically, wireless security, what it does, that wireless networks are not as secure as wired ones. Without stringent security measures, installing a wireless LAN can be like putting Ethernet ports everywhere. Okay, so that's really trouble. So to prevent an exploit from taking hold, you need products specifically designed to protect a wireless network. Okay. So web security is another type of the network security which is not mentioned in the slides, but I would tell you that a web security solution will control your staff's web use, block web-based threats, and deny access to malicious website. So it will protect your web gateway on site or in the cloud. Web security also refers to the steps you take to protect your own website. So for example, if you are in school, they have usually blocked few of the sites. So for example, in school, you cannot use Facebook. In school, you cannot use, Usebook. You cannot use YouTube. I'm sorry. So these are some simple security measures that usually organizations take in order to protect their organization, in order to protect their data. And so in some of the offices, you cannot even access all of the social media sites, but you can access only a few specific sites. So this is basically the web security type of the network security. Okay. So I hope you have enjoyed today's video. You have learned something new. This was the first part of network security. In the second part, we will discuss that how network security is related to Linux and what is the role of network security in Linux. So I hope you have enjoyed it. For written articles, you can visit our website linuxin.com, and I will see you in the next video.